Welcome, everybody, to Eco Community Conversations made possible by Earth Gives, a 501c3 impact organization working to catalyze environmental philanthropy beyond the 2% of giving that it sits at right now. And we focus on doing this through community building, storytelling. And so we're going to be telling a few stories. And Keerthana Kumar is here with me today. So we're kicking off some chats. We're excited to have her youth voice to bring it, very up close and personal to what we're all about. So I'm Rhonda Bannard. I'm the founder and executive director of Earth Gives, which is also part of Earth Gives Day. So we're working to bring together a Giving Day platform that's focused solely on environmental and climate focused 501c3s and their work to move beyond the 2% of philanthropy. So Keerthana, here we are. So share a little bit about you and what you're doing and how you got involved in this issue. I mean, we know that you're an Earth Gives intern, so thank you very much for all that you're helping us out with. But tell us how you even got into this issue area.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Keerthana Kumar. I will currently be a freshman at Arizona State University, and I'll be staying on the Tempe campus. So I actually took an AP Environmental Science class about 2 years ago. And when I tell you that changed my life, that is the biggest understatement in the world. That class basically changed my perspective on the world, and it really showed me like how important the climate issue is and how involved I could be as a youth member, even though I wasn't 18 at the time. So basically what it did was it was a comprehensive class talking all about the environment and various different climate issues. After that class, I joined the Arizona Youth Climate Coalition, which is a 100% youth-led climate organization all throughout Arizona. And its goal is to basically mobilize youth members into the climate action and to do climate justice issues. So that organization is actually very helpful because they have different projects and they have different teams such as community, finance, and they also do different events such as strikes and summits. So I have been a part of that organization for approximately 3 years. I was the communications director, and then recently I transitioned to becoming the finance director, as I also have a passion in business and sustainability in business. That's also something I'm very passionate about. But I recently came across Earth Gives a couple months ago when I was doing research about different climate environmental nonprofits. And I personally felt very touched by the movement. And I thought that this was something that I could be involved in and I could actually make an impact, especially as a young 18-year-old who is barely of voting age. I feel like there's a lot more that I could be doing. But yeah, that's basically it. And I personally believe that climate education is one of the most important aspects and facets of the climate justice issue, because the more educated people are, the more likely they are to speak up about issues.
That's fantastic. So obviously this November is going to have new meaning for you.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Yes. So, and what we're trying to do here, obviously, is think of philanthropy in a more holistic framing. So that's voice, action, where you spend your money, where you give your vote, all those kinds of things. So you touched on that broad, holistic swath of that very well. So what advice would you have for your classmates, soon to be classmates, or other young people listening to this about how they might step in to start impacting this very big issue?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question because I was speaking with one of my friends who isn't super into climate, but is like she's trying to get into it. I was having a conversation with her about this the other day, and she had told me that one of her biggest fears is not knowing enough about the issue. And I feel like that's a perfectly reasonable fear because when I started after I took that environmental science class, I genuinely felt like I didn't know anything compared to my other teammates and my other classmates who were more involved in this issue. So I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is more than enough. Like a lot of people will be afraid that they aren't experts on the issue, they don't know a bunch, and as a result, they can't necessarily be involved in the issue. But it's such a diverse issue with so many different facets that I feel like it has something for everyone. And I mean, I'm still learning more about it, especially since it's such an evolving field and things are changing every day, with more renewable resources or different lifestyle changes. But I personally think that it's okay if you even have the tiniest bit of knowledge or you don't have any at all as far as climate goes, because it's really easy to get into it. And I personally feel like, you shouldn't be afraid to just take that first step.
That's just great wisdom. And I have a huge feeling that you're going to be influencing a lot of folks on campus
I hope so, fingers crossed.
coming the next few weeks. So, um, so if you had more support for even an organization like the Youth Climate Action, what would be possible? What do if you could wave a magic wand, what would you like to see done, or what would you take action on if you were in control?
So I personally feel like the biggest thing is climate education. I touched on that briefly earlier. But for the longest time, we've been trying to work on this project to get more classes taught in schools that are sort of more mandatory, but they're more general climate education classes, because although environmental science was useful, there was only about like 1 week or 2 weeks that was focused on climate. And I personally felt like it wasn't comprehensive enough. So I feel like if I were to get that opportunity, I'd want to push for more climate education in schools and even outside of schools, doing more webinars, doing more educational seminars, doing workshops, summits, because then I feel like people, especially like students and youth members like me, they'll feel more comfortable approaching these issues once they feel like they have sort of a grasp on it. Because, like I touched on earlier, a lot of kids have this fear that they don't know anything, or they're not experienced enough, or they don't have enough knowledge about the topic. So I feel like expanding climate education and having more kids like being able to access these sort of like moments and these issues, then they're able to be more comfortable in joining these issues.
What a great point. And, we've been lucky to be involved with Seth Godin's The Carbon Almanac. I need to make sure I get you on when I'm
Oh, yes,
back
please.
closer to you. I've got several handy, and it's certainly education. It's all about systems change. And, I think it might help, bring those kinds of conversations together to allow people to begin to take action in places where they feel more comfortable. So that's really good. So based on the work that you've done already at this young age, what are a few interesting insights that you might share that kind of go on behind the scenes that somebody who's not as involved as you are as a youth needs to understand about the dynamics and the things that happen behind the scenes to make the things that we see out there in the world happen?
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is the right answer to this question, but one of the things that I've seen personally is that burnout is very real, especially when it comes to this issue, because oftentimes, like speaking from like very personal experience, sometimes I'll feel like I'm the only one who's kind of like pushing for this issue, when I know realistically that's not true. But the more work that I do and the more that I push and I push and I push, I start to feel like I'm not doing enough. And it starts to become this sort of level where, there's more that I could be doing, or the work that I'm doing isn't enough, or this isn't the right kind of work. And I start to question those kinds of things. And especially being part of a youth organization, sometimes we have moments where we don't have necessarily like the most active members. So sometimes it falls upon the leadership to try and pull things together. And in those moments, it's a little hard because I start to question why I'm even doing this. It's like, what is the reason if, no one else is going to help me out? And I have lots of support in that organization, which I'm actually very thankful for. But after, being involved in this field for approximately 3 years, it's starting to hit me a little bit. I'm starting to, question all the things that I'm doing, because as far as social justice issues go, this is the one that I'm the most involved in. So there's times where I'll be questioning, I'll be asking, what if I use my time to address a different social issue, or to put my time into working on something else? And it's very hard to find that balance for me. So I think burnout is one of the biggest things. But usually what happens when I feel that way is I'll take a step back. I'll try to do a different project that's still the same issue, but a different way of approaching it. Like, working with Earth Gives and doing nonprofit work instead of trying to write policy or trying to plan strikes or trying to do events like those. And I feel like it's very refreshing for me, because in that way I'm able to find my passion again within this climate issue without being super burnt out.
Got it. Well, you're definitely not alone, because doing the work and having the opportunity to follow and pay attention to a lot of environmental nonprofits across the country, it's very real. And certainly the latest policy that we hope is about to be passed, obviously is giving new wind to everyone's sails, I think, to push on this. But you know, maybe as a mom, I understand a little bit more that no matter what issue you're working on, there's burnout that happens. It happens in a lot of places. So that ability to renew and refresh yourself is really important. And you'll journey that well in college as well. So thank you for that. That is such a huge issue, and I'm not sure it will come up in these conversations. So last two questions. So how would you describe what an earth giver is?
Okay, so an earth giver is basically someone who gives, whether it's monetary or time-wise or even just a lifestyle change, basically someone who gives to better the planet and the environment. Now, again, like I said, it doesn't always have to be monetary, you know, switching from eating meat every day to eating meat every other day, you know, even small lifestyle changes like that, I personally feel like is someone who gives to the earth. And then also giving time, volunteering, you know, going planting trees, you know, the classic environmental volunteering, stuff like that. But on a deeper note, I feel like an earth giver is someone who sort of goes out of their way to try and contribute to help the environmental issue. And again, it doesn't always have to be monetary, but sometimes that's the most helpful. And I think an earth giver is just someone who genuinely cares about the environment.
Fantastic. So favorite resources like podcasts or books or anything that you might direct somebody, maybe even in particular classmates like you have, or us older adults to pay attention to and learn from? What would that be?
So our Tucson team actually really loves the Carbon Almanac. They all have a copy of it. And so I definitely feel like that book is a great starting place because also in the back, there's a sort of glossary of other climate books and other climate movies. So definitely that book. And I haven't been super involved in reading as much as I'd like to be. So hopefully once I start college, I'll be reading more books about the environment and the climate. But we're also planning on doing a bunch of like climate movie nights and stuff like that, so that people who may not have access to books and stuff, they can come down and they can watch like these movies. So as far as like specific resources goes, I'm not really sure. I mean, I love the Lorax. I know that's a kid's movie, but I mean, it is a very important movie and it has very important topics. So I mean, if you're just starting out and you want something light, something easy, definitely watch that movie and then sort of go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So what great insights. Thanks for joining me. What
Absolutely.
a delight to kick off our eco community conversations. We're thrilled to get to know you. We're thrilled to be able to work alongside you to support you and your classmates and our future generations for years to come. And we're very honored that you've been here to help us at Earth Gives.